On tonight's Top Gear, I'm bowled over by a Rover. Steve Berry sorts out some man-sized three-wheelers. And Jeremy gets to grips with some very fast women. The old Rover 200 was one of those cars that left you cold. Sure, it was worthy and workmanlike, but when it came to image, it had all the panache of tartan blankets and cavalry twill trousers. But the new 200 has charisma aplenty. But the 200 isn't just pretty and it isn't just cute, it's much, much more than that. To put it rather grandly, it is a defining moment in Rover's history. Probably the most significant car they've made for the last couple of decades. Why? Well, two reasons. First, it marks a dramatic shift away from Rover's more traditional, dare I say it, elderly customer base towards a much younger, more aspirational market sector, 25 to 35. And secondly, this is no pastiche of a BMW or a Honda. It is a Rover, nose to tail. And with prices set at between £10,000 and £15,000, it's going to be a question of look out Escort, look out Astra, because it's got you in its sights. There are two body shapes, 3 and 5 door. 6 engines from 1.4 K series to 2-litre diesel, plus 7 levels of trim from the basic 1.4i to the very wonderful VI. What you get is modernity in the shape of that toothy body, adorned with the all-important traditional Rover grille. And don't think, because it looks small, it is. It might be 22mm shorter than a Peugeot 306, yet there is actually more cabin room inside. Plus extra long seat runners to boost front and rear leg reach. And it's one of those rare cars which 3 or 5 door looks just as good. And there is absolutely nothing geriatric about the way it drives. This is the 1.8 VI, which shares the same engine as the MGF. It can scamper its way to 60 in 7.5 seconds and run on all the way to 127. Even the diesel isn't dreary. The 2-litre turbocharged can crack 115. As for the handling, it's like a go-kart. You've got standard power steering across the range, which is beautifully weighted, and it just turns in, bites and grips. Frankly, the chassis on this car is surprisingly good. So who exactly is responsible for putting the zing into Rover?
We've taken some of the obvious traditional elements of Rover, such as the grille, the badging, and fused them to a car that's got a lot of youthful dynamic appeal. It's got a very long wheelbase, very short overhang, so that the wheels are at each corner of the car, so it's got a very good stance.
Now, there's a hugely dramatic departure at the back here with this peaked cap rear spoiler. I mean, you know, 5 years ago for Rover to do something like that would have been unheard of.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very strong design element. It's there for aerodynamic reasons, but we really wanted to make a feature of it from a design point of view. And it sits very nicely in this overall glass shape. We employed some very young designers. We put 6 of them to work on this program. We chose one of their designs, and that designer was 26 years old.
And if the Italians of Portofino are anything to go by, they reckon that designer has done a rather splendid job. But what about build quality? Because we all remember those dark old days of the Montego and the Maestro. Crappy, fragile cars that broke down a lot. Well, the 200 looks and feels different. The paint finish is absolutely flawless. The doors now thunk reassuringly. And at last, Rover has managed to get its outside component suppliers to make their interior switches that click satisfyingly. So what we're looking at here is not just a small car that's big on quality, but a small car you can actually feel proud to own. So what's wrong with it? Well, not much. A 1-year warranty is a bit mean-spirited. ABS is only standard on the top model and there's no remote boot release. But that's carping, really. Perhaps its greatest flaw is that it doesn't look as big as its competitors. But look at it this way. Rover have created an entirely new market segment, the Super Mini. Dimensionally challenged or not, the new 200 is a little burster.
Whoa. Nature, isn't it wonderful? I watch all the natural history programmes on television and I've learnt 2 things. First, you really don't want to be a wildebeest. Oh no. Second, it doesn't matter whether a creature comes equipped with flappers, feet or flippers, they always occur in pairs. And the same rule applies to motor vehicles. Basically, if it's got an odd number of wheels, then forget it. It's unnatural.
Once again, Steve is talking utter rubbish. 2 may well be great, but 3 is fantastic.
This trike began life as a VW Beetle, before undergoing major surgery at the hands of a man who has devoted his life to putting the wildest engines into the weirdest machines. Trikist extraordinaire, Chris Ireland. The engine's only mildly tuned, but freed from the weight of a Beetle, it's really rather rapid.
Get that job, I shut the factory down. Now you sit around all day long, feeling sad and blue.
Of course, there are many advantages to owning a trike. First of all, I don't legally have to wear a helmet. But secondly, it's the closest thing I can get to a bike, because my normal form of transport is one of these.
There are 2 ways a biker gets into my kind of situation: accident or, as happened to me, illness. And there's 2 ways of making a trike. You either start with a car or you start with a bike. In this case, a Suzuki GSXR 1100, making this a very, very fast machine indeed. The biggest myth about trikes is that they're unstable. But on a machine like this, the weight's very evenly spread, so that it sticks to the road like a limpet with vertigo.
Chris, how do you go from building something like this, which is, for a motorbike, pretty sensible, to building something like that, which is, well, it's silly, isn't it?
It's silly, but the brilliant fun. I mean, trikes have been part of the custom scene for years.
How did you get involved with working with disabled bikers?
We had a friend and we decided to get him back on the road, and we had to work all the conversions out ourselves, and once we'd done it, then word got round and all the disabled started coming here.
What was the most difficult part, getting that job done?
Sorting out the brakes and getting everything on the handlebars, because he couldn't use his feet.
They usually have either a Volkswagen engine like this one, don't they, or perhaps a bike engine?
Yeah, we're dealing with car engines as well. We've done big V8s, Buicks. I've got a 27-litre Rolls-Royce Merlin engine sitting in the corner.
But that's not the silliest trike you've built, is it?
The daftest one we did was a de Havilland Ghost-powered one, jet engine. But it was only 10,000 horsepower, so it's stuck in 2 V8s as well.
I've seen the future, and it's got 3 wheels. I call it Super Plug, and the performance is electrifying. You see, what I've done is I've fitted a 500 horsepower V8 in a Bond bug. And I guarantee that at the speeds this baby's capable of, you won't have time to think about exactly how stupid you look. No, don't! This could be bigger than a C5! You don't understand!
Now, when a bunch of female lovies, women who work in the world of television, sport and show business, get together to raise money for charity, you'd expect to find some world-class political correctness. You'd expect to find them in the woods, hugging trees, knitting tofu, writing earth poetry. And you'd be nearly right. This was the second so-called Racy Ladies' Day at Silverstone, a day when anyone who's anyone gets together to raise funds for Tommy's campaign. Everyone was split into 6 teams and sent off to perform various disciplines like driving a Discovery, somewhere other than on the school run. Because I wasn't allowed to take part, I can't scream loudly enough. We enlisted the help of Jenny Powell.
Am I going too fast?
There's no prizes for going quickly.
So you're judging me on this, yeah?
I am.
How am I doing?
You've got to be very nice to me.
I think you look gorgeous today. Can I just say that? When the sun catches your eyes like that.
I know.
Good on you, Jenny. When all else fails, try flattery.
Well, hey! I tell you what, it lets out all those frustrations us girlies have, doesn't it?
Yep, innuendo's good too.
Then return triumphantly, you see. It's all about confidence. And what a confidence thing you were. And what do points make? Winners! Cheers. Right, who's next?
Next was reversing lorries and talking like lorry drivers.
Oh, shit!
Come on, girlie.
You don't need too much throttle, if any.
It's just getting used to the size of it, said the actress to the bishop. No, am I going, which way am I going?
You want to turn round
I'm going
to
to
the
this
left?
way.
Yes, you are.
Ah, here.
Yes.
Right, well done.
Thank you.
Good drive.
Yeah. Anyone got vodka and tonic?
No, left, keep going.
Here's a new Rover 100 at top speed, or as fast as it'll go when the driver is blindfolded.
Go right, just keep going right.
Yeah.
Keep going right, go on, more.
The idea is that your buddy gives directions and you try to get round a preset course.
I wouldn't be able to drive if I were blind, would I?
Good way to find out.
Thank you.
Keep going.
Shall I just tap your shoulder?
I feel like I'm doing a bit of welding, actually.
It's important, though, that your partner knows her left from her right.
Around right.
Oh, God, this is awful.
Okay, pull up.
Straight ahead.
Straight ahead. No, straight ahead. Oh, sorry, pull left. Full lock.
Have I got to go the way around?
Now right, okay,
full
pull
right
up,
lock, full right lock,
Full right, look.
full right lock, that's it. That's right, keep going full right.
This is bizarre.
Okay.
But less of the horsing around. According to an RAC report released on Racy Ladies' Day, women make better drivers than men. It also says they're safer. I've got the report here. 1/3 of road injury accidents in 1994 involved women drivers. Yeah, I can believe that. Women are half as likely as men to jump red lights. Again, believable. Only 1% of women find speeding exciting, compared with 40% of men. Now that is complete codswallop. In the kart race, everyone would have left Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill in a cloud of tyre smoke. This was gladiatorial competitiveness. There were no mobile chicanes, no dawdlers, no glaciers with side stripes. So what was the buzz? Well, I'll tell you. Speed. Pure and simple.
Yeah, I think women do. I think they do like going fast in cars. I love it. And I think the wonderful thing about this event is it is all girlies and we all get a chance to go as fast as we possibly can.
When I passed my test, I wanted to drive fast, and I did. And I used to race away from the lights and that. But then I think girls grow out of it. Girls grow up, and men are still boys behind the wheel of a car. That's the unfortunate thing. Oh, God.
Well, there's a woman behind the wheel of this one.
No, it's not. It's Christina Estrada. That's not a woman at all.
She'd been driving a reverse steer pickup truck.
You guys, it's so easy.
Oh, we saw.
No, I promise you. You think if you're driving on the opposite side of the road, when you start to go up, you just turn to the right and it goes this way. You just take your time, because it's really tough.
You don't need to use the gas very much.
Does it have power steering?
No.
She means
You
the
take your foot
accelerator.
off the gas,
For you British viewers.
just let it roll, and then you...
So, women are as enthusiastic about speed as men. But what about getting their hands dirty? Changing wheels, for instance, on a Formula One car.
You've got to take your time about it. In your mind, you've got to think slow, but do quick.
No, I know, but you are going to do it in, say, 6 seconds, yes?
Yes.
What I can't understand is the guys do it in 6 seconds and they're paid millions of pounds a year.
You're right.
Even though this team was burdened with my wife, the result was astonishing.
Next one and a little bit.
Yes.
Tell you what, we're there.
And now, for being rude about her indoors, the truth about my wheel-changing abilities.
Shut up. At least we didn't have to call National Breakdown to get ours off, did we, Jeremy?
Well, that's it. The day's pretty much over now. I'm just standing here waiting for my wife. We've got to get home. She's got the cleaning to do. She's got the ironing. Baby's got to get put to bed. And I want my dinner. Come on, woman.
Just wanna have fun now.
The top down in the old MG, what could be better for a drive in the country, or even a drive across the country?
It takes courage to enjoy it. Be careful and gentle.
As you may have guessed, this is a four-wheel drive MGB. Now, since the prime purpose of many 4x4s is to suggest you own a country estate, and the prime use is the school run, this doesn't seem a terribly practical idea. Lunacy, I give in. What have you done to it?
Well, it's basically a Range Rover that's grown a bit. I mean, we've shortened the chassis by 9 inches in the middle, shortened it by 16 at the back, and basically put a heavily modified American spec roadster body shell on it.
And why did you do it?
Well, it dates back to when we used to show a lot, and we used to build all these MGBs, but they used to go at shows, and they used to be sold. So therefore, we built something that we thought no one would want to buy. But unfortunately, we seem to be proved wrong on that.
What, people want to buy replicas of this?
Yeah, seems so, yeah.
What would it cost?
About £15,000.
All in?
All in, yeah.
What would you do with it?
Have a lot of fun. Off-road, on-road, and certainly cause a lot of attention.
It certainly does that. Best of luck selling the replicas.
Thank you.
Sounds easy when Andrew says it like that, but make no mistake, this took 6 months of hard development work, and it's beautifully engineered. It's really up together for a cross-country machine, and with a tuned Rover V8 under the bonnet, it's a half go.
You gotta roll with it, you gotta take your time, you gotta say what you say, don't let anybody get in your way, 'cause it's all too much for me to say.
It weighs a lot less than a Range Rover, and with a wheel literally at each corner, there's no overhang, so it tackles really serious cross-country courses with ease. The long travel suspension with special dampers really soaks up the punishment, and there's a sturdy skid plate up front to protect steering and suspension components. It's better than Sonatogen. Old MGBs, it seems, never die, they just get modified. This car's from the same stable. It's been fitted with a 240 brake horsepower V8 and RV8 body styling. But this is nothing. I know a bloke who's putting a Jaguar V12 in a Roadster. Can't wait.
Volkswagen, one of the great landmarks in motoring history. Today it is the biggest car firm in Europe and, of course, the creator of the Beetle, the best-selling car of all time, with production at 21 million plus and counting. Yeah, Volkswagen, without doubt one of the great British achievements.
You thought I said British, didn't you? Well, you're right, I did. But before you dash off a letter to Anne Robinson, just wait. Because if it wasn't for a small group of British soldiers at the end of World War II, the Beetle and all this would never have existed.
The Beetle was conceived by Ferry Porsche and shown to a delighted Adolf Hitler at the 1938 Berlin Motor Show. He immediately wanted to give it the snappy title of the straight-through joy car. Within a year, a giant factory to produce the Beetle had been built in the town of Wolfsburg, and Hitler's dream of a people's car was about to become a reality. But unfortunately, he got ideas above his station and started World War II, and the giant plant switched to making military equipment. The Volkswagen story almost ended there, because in 1945 the conquering Allies declared that all military factories, including Wolfsburg, should be destroyed. Fortunately, a group of British soldiers, including Major Ivan Hurst, found a lone Beetle in the corner.
One officer had, by chance, seen the Volkswagen when it was introduced to the public at the motor show in Berlin just before the war. And he had the bright idea that if we, that is the British, could get the factory into operation, it would provide the light transportation that the army and military government required for running the British zone of Germany. The Americans said, oh, that's a good idea, we'll have them too, and the French also had them. An order was placed on the factory initially for 20,000 cars, and there was a stay of execution.
The people I've talked to in Wolfsburg who were there at the time have great respect for Ivan Hurst and the British team. I think because they recognised that they were there working on their behalf and that they had the interests of the workforce at heart.
Major Hurst was held in very high regard, and he still is very much respected by the older people at Wolfsburg. Because he was the one who prevented the factory from being demolished.
In the factory itself, conditions were very grim. In the press shop, for instance, the roof was off, and we had to sling tarpaulins over each press on wooden poles to keep the snow off.
The water was running down the walls, through the ceiling, and through the floors into the cellar. Everywhere we stood, there were puddles, mud, debris from the roof. It was a mess.
With just about everything in short supply, the British and the Germans had to think on their feet in order to survive. As soon as they started the factory up, they ran into deep trouble because there were no vehicles to bring the raw materials to the production line. But they thought, hang on, we're a car factory. We've got engines, we've got wheels, we've got tyres. We'll build something. And they came up with this, the Plattenwagen.
Now, before you snigger, let me tell you this bodge-up was still being used around the factory until a few months ago. Bigger problems arose, however, when production was threatened by a total lack of carburettors.
My answer to that was, well, let's have a look at a carburettor. We took one to pieces on my own desk, made two heaps of parts. The die-cast parts, I said we'll make those in the new foundry we'd had to open, in the light alloy foundry. And the other bits, he said, we cannot manufacture those. I said, no, but they're small detail parts. There are two camera firms down in Brunswick nearby who could very well make those.
And they also chucked out the old Nazi logo and knocked up the current VW symbol over a few cups of tea. The British stayed in charge for 4 years, and in that time a strong bond of mutual respect was forged between them and their former wartime enemies. By March 1946, the 1000th Beetle came off the assembly line.
I think it was a good car. It stood out ahead of many cars that were on the road at the time. The cars that we produced in the early days for British, American and French armies were rather basic, limited by availability of materials, of course. The seats were rather bare cloth, something like army blanket.
I also hear that there were some peculiar smells coming from them.
There were two peculiar smells. One leaking oil cooler, reeked of oil occasionally, but the worst was when it rained, the car reeked of fish. The adhesive used to fix the trim to the steel bodywork turned out to be fish glue, all that was available at the time.
The way that Volkswagen sold their cars and the superb dealer network that they set up with very good after-sales service, spares, manuals and so on, is all very much derived from the British Army philosophy. It's not something that the German motor industry did before the war, and when the British introduced it was very alien to them. They soon realised that it was actually a very sensible way to sell cars, and they adapted it and developed it, and that was one of the reasons why Volkswagen became so successful in the late 1940s, 1950s.
By 1947, the Allied requirement had by and large been satisfied, so cars came available for the German economy for export. Then the currency was reformed. The German economy just took off overnight. It was like flowers growing in the desert after a rainstorm. It was clear that the Volkswagen was going to play its part on the world scene. I remember talking about this to my chief, Colonel Charles Ratcliffe, and it was he who said, I think we've got a world beater here. It's another Model T. And we regarded it as an incentive to British industry to do better.
Did you get the feeling in the middle of all this that you were actually shaping car history?
For me, speaking personally, I was there for 4 years doing a job. I had done a job before and I'd done jobs since. To me, it's just part of life. I don't feel that I am in any way Mr. Volkswagen.
Ivan Hurst's a terribly modest man. I think he underplays his role there. One only has to talk to the people that were in the workforce of the time to realise just the regard that they hold him. I think it's fair to say that if the British Army officers hadn't been sent to Wolfsburg and run the factory, there would have been no Volkswagen company survived the war, and the Beetle would never have been built.
Next week, Tony Mason straddles 3 lanes of the motorway with Britain's biggest ever road load. Why catalytic converters can be bad for your bank balance. And back with a bang, Italian flair from Alpha's drop-dead gorgeous Spider.